You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Man, is that the Reefer, man?
That's the Reefer, man.
Marijuana.
I believe he's losing his mind.
I think he's lost his mind.
Reefer Madness Radio.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Reefer Madness Radio. It's Citizen J coming at you from Denver, Colorado, and I'm sitting here with my good friend Mark, the guy that could fly.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? This is Mark. We've got Jay. We actually have our friend Mona joining us over here.
Yeah, we got Mona in the studio. Really, she's keeping us company today because, you know, we wanted to have our friend around. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the kind of purpose of the show, is to bring friends, meet people we know around. It is Reefer Madness Radio. It's crazy. It's awesome. Oh my gosh. But it's also just nice Friday afternoon in the Mile High City. We're enjoying hanging out.
Today was a weird day in the Mile High City. You know, like I thought we might get snow this morning, but it's, you know, gotten sunny all of a sudden.
No snow in the Mile High City. Yeah. Foggy.
Soon.
But that's about it.
Soon.
So what's new, man? What's going on?
Well, I think we're going to have today's show all about Earl, right?
Not all about. You're smoking a bowl of flour.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do love my flour, but I do love my Earl too. So we are going to have a guest on later on in the show. We're going to have Daniel Desai from Top Shelf Extracts on the show. So I want to ask everybody who's listening to try to think of some questions, you know, like if you don't know, Daniel Desai, or Big D as we call him, he not only runs Top Shelf Extracts, but he is one of the people responsible for creating the Secret Cup, which is probably the most prestigious oil competition in the country.
Secret.
Yeah.
Secret.
Well, what sets it apart is that the judges are the competitors, right? So whereas at the 710 Cup, you know, the judges are the people that pay for a judge's packet, right? The people who judge at the Secret Cup are actually the people who are competing. So they have to judge their own against everybody else's. And one of the things they do that I find really fun is they always try to have the hash maker identify their own hash out of all of the entries. And it is very rare that someone can actually do that. It has happened a couple times, but it is rare that you can identify your own in that. So
I suppose it's like everyone you would rate like 1 to 5, and then also pick out your own.
Right. You know, it puts you on the spot, to say the least.
Like, no, that's not. That'd be tough. I mean, I don't know.
So Big D is one of the people that first brought the oil craze to Colorado. He's one of the people that's responsible for bringing dabs here. And if there is anybody that you could ask what you want to know about dabs, this is the person to ask, right? He is a master hash maker, and you know, he's started many a career of other hash makers in the city, right? So, you know, I've got a string of questions for him, and I think it would be a really good idea if people like just thought of some good questions for later on in the show for Daniel Desai.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, I guess, getting into dabs, I guess, for not even a couple of years. I mean, I think it was like around 4/20, 2012 maybe, where I first started. I guess came to Denver, was living in Fort Collins just to visit for the day, and had a friend that had some dabs, and we dabbed, and it was, you know, it was cool. It was fun. I think the first time was even on a video.
You know what? I don't even know the first time I dabbed, because I think it was introduced to me on the internet, to tell you the truth. I like learned about dabbing by watching YouTube videos and going into my local head shop and like asking, what is that?
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. You know, this was a few years ago. I was working up in Longmont, and there's a really nice head shop up there called The Little Dog. They're not sponsoring our show yet, but perhaps they will.
Not yet.
I always like The Little Dog because they blow their own glass, and I like that. And they're a nice small place and really friendly, you know. So they had some contraptions there that I'd never seen before, and I was like, you know, exactly that. You know, what is that? And the first thing I ever used to dab off of was my Eclipse, the Eclipse Vape H2O, which is it's a neat contraption that uses a borosilicate vial that screws into an aluminum head, and you heat the vial, and it vaporizes your oil, and then you can pull that into your piece, right? So, what a nice sound. It's a great way to dab, especially if you're just starting out and you don't really know what it's all about. It's easy to do. It's virtually foolproof. Virtually.
No, I think the first time I was dabbing was off of a glass nail. I think I think it might have been like rock butter from River Rock. I don't know. I wasn't like captivated by it the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm never going to smoke flower again. This is awesome. Like, initially I still was a little hesitant and definitely thought I was getting more stoned off of a couple of bowls of flower versus a few dabs. Like, just didn't. It kind of took some time. It took some time to kind of. I think so. I don't know. I don't know why that is.
My first dabs weren't that great either. I think a lot of it has to do with the time. This is a few years ago, and frankly, the concentrates we had just a couple of years ago were nowhere near the quality that they are now.
What if? So the first time that you smoke flower, sometimes you smoke, but you don't actually get high. Do you remember people talking about that?
Yeah.
What about if it's the same with dabs?
Maybe.
The first time you smoke, you don't actually. No, that's probably not true.
No, I don't think so.
People that take the first dab and they're pretty stoned. The word dab is another thing that it's like it.
Where does it come from? A little dab will do you, I guess.
Yeah, a little dab. And, it's because it's a small thing that you dab with, or it's a small amount should do. But it seems like when I find myself saying it too much, I just get annoyed with the word. I'm like, there's got to be a
better word for smoking concentrates than
because
dabbing.
then like you hear on the news, people refer to it like it's like quotes like dabs, like to make dabs you have to do this, and they refer to dabs as the substance.
That brings up something that came up earlier this week. Heard a lot of people, including you, talking about that couple of stories from back east where people are comparing dabs to crack. Right?
Yeah, that's been going on for a couple of weeks, and there was one article that was like a full-on. Was an article? Was it news? That was from
Towson. You're talking about the Towson?
Towson, yeah.
It was a university newspaper. Towson State University's in Maryland. I actually spent a semester there. And, someone on the newspaper talked to a sergeant in the local police force who fed her a lot of erroneous propaganda regarding dabs, right? Mm-hmm. Saying things like it was, addictive and that it was deadly, right? And
see, this thing is like, I don't mind having the discussion if there is that discussion as far as if comparing it to like just not smoking dabs or just not BHO or water hash, that sort of thing. But to say that, to compare it to crack or to say that it's physically addicting, I think is
there's no science to back that up. I mean, that's the thing. When you get right down to it, and you talk to anybody on let's just call it the prohibition side, because even people who are on the prohibition side don't necessarily know they're on that side. They're just believing the propaganda, mm-hmm. right? It's hard to break through that, and the only way to do that is with the facts. And one of the biggest problems we have in this country is that the federal government does not allow us to do any real studies on the beneficial properties of cannabis, right? All the studies that they find, and it's just the way it's written, the regs are written, they have to find negative effects for cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see studies on the effects of like butane, right? I mean, I would legitimately want to know the effects of long-term ingestion of terribly made BHO, right? Like, what if you're just smoking straight street butane hash oil for long periods of time? Like, I want to know if that's potentially dangerous, but I still don't think that we should have news stories comparing it to crack. Like, wow, right. It's crack. Like, I think that's...
We've talked about the butane thing before because we talk about it with lighters, right? Mm-hmm. Butane lighters have been used for smoking pipes commercially in the United States since the 1950s. Mm-hmm. Ronson was the first company to make refillable butane lighter for the public. I know this because I did some research for a story for the Daily Doobie a few months ago about this myth about butane, right? So First of all, when you light a lighter, you're no longer sucking in butane. The butane is transformed by the chemical reaction of lighting it, right? It's broken down into its base elements. It is a hydrocarbon, and there are probably some free radicals involved, but it's not toxic. It's not poisonous. If there was an issue with that, we'd know. People have been sucking on Bic lighters since I think it was 1973. I think the first Bic lighter came out. Right? Yeah. It's a long time. So I think if butane were a health and safety issue, we would know about that. That being said, you don't want butane in your dabs, right? For flavor reasons, but also because, it is butane and nobody wants to smoke that stuff. You don't want to inhale butane, right?
No.
It's not oxygen, right? It can kill you, but at the same time, it's not a poison or a carcinogen as far as I know, right?
Well, I don't know.
Nothing I've read indicates that it is, right? And you can actually look up, I think they're called MSDS documents. If you go into industrial health and safety, there have been studies about pretty much every industrial chemical out there, right? So we do know actually that butane is safe, or we wouldn't be using it, right? So
I think we're going to start to see cannabis extracted with other things.
We already are.
Yeah, different things. I've heard propane. There's going to be some propane extracted oils.
People use that naphtha.
Which obviously you do not want to inhale propane. Propane is very explosive. And
well, so is butane. I think
Yes.
they're equally explosive. Ether is also used, and so is high-grade alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? So you can use water to extract the oil, the hash.
Because it's in CO2.
Oh, yeah, let's not forget good old CO2.
Because it's a solvent at temperature. Anyway.
Oh, there's so many things we could talk about that where oil is concerned. You know what? There's another topic that people talk about, and that is the consistency of the oil itself, and what that might do if it accumulates in your body, right? But I think we need to see more long-term studies of that before we can really talk about that. So I
suppose so.
Coming up to our first break here. After the break, you guys, we're going to have Big D call in, and we want to have some questions. So let's see if we can get that going. And don't forget to sign into the chat.
Yeah, I think we have to. Do we have to sign into the chat to get the chat going ourselves? No, it's already going. It's going? Awesome. Because, we're going to try and, a little more participation than last time. We were not aware of the chat. There was a few things with the last show that we
working out the bugs.
Yeah, working out the bugs. We yes, the Halen piece. Before we go to commercial, the Halen piece. Last time we showed up, we did not have a flower piece. We were looking around in the office space
that's here, and
in the break room. We're like, there's got to be
one.
And there was.
Lo
Sam.
and behold,
yeah.
Sam, one of the producers here, he had that Halen piece that he says he left here just for those emergencies.
Those occasions when people show up without their piece.
Saved us, Sam. Thanks, man.
So I think things are going well. It's a learning progress, a work in progress, and we're gonna have our first call-in guest. This is gonna be a call-in. It should be sweet. Let's take it to a break. We'll see you guys soon.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first Cannabis Championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
We are back.
Hello.
Reefer Madness Radio.
Welcome back to Reefer Madness Radio. Before we get to our guest, I just want to give a quick shout out to Medically Correct. Medically Correct, they make those incredible bars, right? The Incredibles bars, they come in a variety of flavors. They're awesome because they're made by real bakers who know what real baking is all about. So pick them up at your local dispensary. Hey, thanks for your support.
Yeah, that's awesome. We appreciate it. I don't know why I keep saying that. Appreciate it. No, that's awesome. They've been the first people to kind of say they want to support the show, and that's been great.
Right on.
Awesome.
I think we might have someone on the line with a question.
No, we're calling Daniel.
Oh, we're calling Daniel now. Boy, so many things to work out.
This is awesome.
Hello?
Hey, Daniel, it's Citizen J.
Hey, Jay, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for agreeing to be on Reefer Madness Radio.
Hey, no problem.
So I'm hoping that we'll get a few people ask some questions in our chat and maybe even Skype in. But first, I think we'll take the opportunity to ask a little bit about you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here in Denver?
What I do here in Denver now is I run Top Shelf Extracts, although honestly, lately it's just been kind of running itself. Well, I've been out on all these trips trying to make secret cups happen in different states.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's about it.
That's great. Yeah, no, this is Mark. I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting. But, I mean,
Great to meet you, Mark.
Right on, man. It's great. I definitely have seen you around at all the local events, and that's what's great is like you've got the company, and obviously it's a good problem to have when your company can kind of run itself, and then you can go do these great things. So yeah, like I don't exactly know a whole lot about the Secret Cup. So like, what is exactly the Secret Cup for other people that really know nothing about it? Because it's going on in other states besides Colorado. It's like a tournament, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. But it started in Colorado. Actually, if we want to really talk about where it started back in San Jose. That's last summer. I was on a trip, and I was meeting up with some people that I'd gotten to know online in this forum called Extract Artists. It's for hash makers, sort of share knowledge and, call each other higher and raise the standards. So we got together, and, we were talking about competitions because that's a big thing for all of us. A really good competition win can just kind of make your career. And there's always a few things that you're sort of dissatisfied about, so we decided to start our own competition. And what we decided was the people that would be most qualified to judge their competition, to judge the competition, and the most unbiased would be the competitors themselves. Because if you have a vested interest in the outcome, you're going to judge people fairly if you're a fair person, but you're not going to hook them up, for any reason because you want to win. Not to mention, if you do this for a living, you tend to know what goes into something. You know what goes into making good butter, and you know what goes into making good shatter. So I think that with 30 hash makers, it's a pretty good statistic sampling to determine a real winner.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that the people that are the professionals in the industry are also the ones that are judging the final outcome. Like, and especially if it's, like, you don't know who it is and you're just testing based on getting a sample and having to just, compare. I think that's great.
Where have they been so far, Daniel? The secret cups, where have they been?
The first one we had was last year in December, and it really was a national competition, the first national competition of its kind. People traveled from 10 different states in order to be there, and they competed from 5 different states.
Where was that?
So it was pretty awesome. It was right here in Denver. It was we were banking on it going legal and getting signed into law. It wasn't yet, but then right before the event, a week before, it just went legal for everybody that was over the age of 21. And we had a great party.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I remember when the governor was signing into law, I remember thinking, like, gosh, I hope he does it sooner rather than later. So that, like, I remember thinking that, gosh, he could put it till after the new year. And I was grateful that he put it, before the new year so that people could, celebrate legally and responsibly,
I think everybody felt that way, Mark, at that time. I think we were all sitting on the edge of our seats just waiting for that to happen. So since the one in Denver, you've had them a few different places now, right? There was one in Seattle just recently, and where else?
Yeah, the first one in LA was in March.
LA,
and then we had the Pacific Northwest on September. And then October 5th was the NorCal one. And October 19th is going to be the Denver Regional. And then the top qualifiers, the top 3 finishers, are going to face the top 3 from last year and have one more competition in December.
Right on. So in essence, the people that win the cups from all the other different regions will get to compete against each other for a national champion, if you will.
Exactly. This is truly a tournament of champions. All these people not only won other, Secret Cup awards, either first, second, or third at each of the regionals, but, a lot of them won cannabis cups and other competitions as well.
Right, like the 710 Cup. Do you see this going
I think we have like 6 or 7, finishers that are going to be placed in the 710 Cup, which is pretty cool.
Do you see this eventually going international?
Definitely. As soon as, the whole world just rises up and goes legal everywhere, I think there's definitely a tide and can't be resisted.
Right on. We're working on it, brother. One place at a time, gain that momentum and let it grow, hey?
Exactly, yeah. What sort of, I guess I don't want to say backlash, but like I make YouTube videos and I smoke and I do take dabs on the internet and I get people saying that, and then you see these news stories where people compare it to, I've had literally people trying to compare it to crack as far as badly made BHO. Now, what can you say to that as far as what do you know about badly made BHO, and do you get a lot of people that are trying that you get a lot of, I guess, negativity or negative press because of badly made BHO or illegally made, like street made, whatever you want to call it?
From the first time I took a dab, I realized that, eventually there was going to be some kind of backlash. And I just try to stay in front of it as much as I can. I mean, I know it's still coming, but we do this in a regulated market, and we've never had an accident. And we're producing a lot here in Colorado with all the different concentrate making companies now, and no one's having accidents because we're doing it right. When you make something illegal, you kind of produce the problem,
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously.
So what I try to do is we always, help out the patient community. We always give money to charity. I actually throw charity events in the name of the 710 community. And we haven't had any problems at any of our parties, or haven't been any car accidents, haven't been in any fights. No one's been hurt. No one's overdosed, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing is that you're around, you do it professionally. It's all done safe. And in that environment, the community is supportive and safe, and everything's great. I guess there is still that, like, people still making it, I guess, unsafely and illegally, and not, how does it, if you do it bad, what's the process whether you're going to get a lot of butane in it? Is it from not purging it properly? Is it from just you're just doing it wrong the whole way? Or how would one, I don't want to say it, but like, how do you make bad BHO, or what is the process that people seem to miss?
not purging it properly is going to what it's going to come down to most of the time. I mean, if you don't take your time with it, then it's not going to come out that great. It's kind of like with cooking. I use that analogy a lot. You learn a really good recipe, and then you might throw a little couple personal touches into it, but essentially you're following the recipe. And all the same, one person can take like really good ingredients and just make something mediocre with it. And another person can take mediocre ingredients and make something amazing with it.
I think we call that flair.
It really comes down to the attention to the process. Yeah. If you're rushing it, if you're just trying to produce, then you won't vacuum purge it. You'll just heat it. I mean, bad DHO. You're not really seeing it that much in Colorado anymore. I mean, that's great. People know how to purge now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So we had a question from one of...
I mean, you'll have stuff that tastes like crap. That'll be what bad DHO is nowadays. I mean, they just won't have good material to start with. They use machine trim. They'll use old material. I mean, and it just won't taste good, but it's not going to be at a point where it's going to harm anybody.
Right on. So, Daniel, one of our viewers wanted you to explain the differences between the different kinds of hash out there. Bobblehead asked that question. Could you explain the different kinds of and let's leave it to the different kinds of oil hash out there?
I mean, yeah, because like wax versus butter versus shatter.
Versus, like the CO2 and all that kind of stuff.
So we're just talking about butane hash oil in its different forms.
Sure, we can talk about that. Butane hash oil in its
different forms. A lot of it has to do with the material that you're starting with. And that kind of determines what people call it. If it's see-through and clear, they call it shatter because a lot of times, it'll be like glass and you can break it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it won't quite be shatter. It'll be like some softer, stickier oil. Yep. It'll still be really good, and they'll call that sap. But it's still pretty much the same thing.
Sap.
I mean, see-through, nice, purged, clean oil will be shatter. If you take that same shatter though, and you decide to over purge it, if you heat it up while you're whipping it, the shatter will turn into wax. It'll be like candle wax or just yellow, clumpy, butter-colored looking stuff because you whip air into it and apply a little bit of heat. It causes it to change its form. Now, if you just add heat and you don't whip it, then a bunch of air bubbles will form as the last remaining bits of butane and moisture kind of go through it, and it'll end up looking like honeycomb. So they call that honeycomb.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's another process when after a while, if you didn't do the shatter right, if you made any mistake, like you left too much moisture in it, you added too much heat, anything like that, it'll cause it to change from a shatter to a wax consistency. And when that happens, it kind of looks like it sugars up. In that instance, they'll call that sugar.
What about, I had some wax that seemed to get a hard crust on its outside.
I call that auto buttering. That's what most people would call it, yeah.
So why is shatter more expensive, and why do people prefer it?
It's more of an achievement for the hash maker to make some really good shatter than it is butter. I mean, if you start with good material for butter and then you run it and you whip it, it'll come out really good every time. Doesn't matter who does it. Doesn't matter your level of expertise or what. Shatter, on the other hand, you need to really be careful with the temperatures. You might not need to raise them if it's not viscous enough, Mm-hmm. You might realize that you can add more heat to it, and it'll come out fine. It might be that it's, certain materials you have to be really gentle with it. And if you go above 105, it'll start clouding up on you. I mean, it's more work. It requires about 10 times as much time and a whole lot more care to make really good shatter than it does butter.
Mm-hmm.
And then are you getting more flavor? I mean, you generally say you get more flavor out of shatter than the same thing if you turn
People say you actually get more flavor out of properly done butter.
Really? It's just not been my experience.
It's negligible.
Yeah. So how come, and this is kind of an off question, Daniel, but a lot of times I taste wax and it'll taste the same to me, right? Different strains, they have the same flavor. Why is that? And then other strains...
Waxes degrades. Oh, there's generic hash taste that's underlying it, definitely.
Yeah.
But when you're able to preserve the terps by not going too hot, you're able to save the flavor from the strain that you made it from.
So that's the key right there. It's preserving the terpenes with low heat that allows that flavor to come through. Is it true that, that shatter will keep its flavor longer than wax?
Definitely, it does.
And why is that? Is it because of the aeration process?
Yeah, exactly, the aeration.
I guess this is all starting to become clear.
Yeah, it makes sense when you talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. All right, so I got one more question for you, Daniel, that just came to my mind. And that is, you call yourself a hash maker, right?
Yes.
But we don't really refer to oil as hash out here in my little neck of the woods, right? We call it butter, shatter, Earl, oil, anything but hash. When we talk about hash, we talk about water solventless hash, right? So why do you call yourself a hash maker?
Because it's the general term.
Yeah.
A lot of people now call themselves extract artists, and I do really like that term, but at the same time, it's kind of like a copyrighted term, and I don't want to get in trouble with the person who owns the copyright, so I go with the more general term hash maker.
Right on.
I mean, it's all hash. Hash is just the extracted resin from cannabis,
Yeah.
Whatever method you choose to use.
Right, back in the day, they called it hot knives, right? That's how people used to smoke it. And they didn't call it dabbing back in the day. They called it using hot knives.
Hot knives. I guess I got an odd question. Occasionally, I've had some wax that's had when I put it to my tie nail, it has like a sizzle to it. Now, is that a sign that it's bad, or what does that mean? Like it literally sizzles. Like I guess it seems like there's water in it, if anything. Daniel, you there?
Uh-oh, we might have lost him.
I must have that answered question. I'm just kidding. It's all right. We'll get him back.
You know what? I think it's opportune. We'll call him back right after the break, eh?
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
The Law Office of Edson Maton & Matz provides criminal defense, family law, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running a medical marijuana center, optional premises cultivation operation, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout the state of Colorado. We're focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. WarrenEdson.com. Edson Maton & Matz in Denver, 303-831-8188, and in Aspen, 970-948-7183. WarrenEdson.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Hey, yo, we're back. Welcome back to Reefer Madness Radio. We had a little technical difficulty and lost Daniel Desay for a moment, but we're going to get him back. Before we call him, I just wanted to remind people, we do see your questions on the chat. Thanks very much. Just to clarify, BHO means butane hash oil. It is the umbrella phrase, if you will. All of the things that we have been talking about, including shatter and butter and wax and all of the other terms that Big D mentioned, are all forms of BHO. It's BHO in its different finishing forms, right? And we might have a little bit more clarification on that. But I wanted to encourage people, please use the phone number at the top of the screen to call in and ask us direct, and we're going to get Big D back.
Yeah, hopefully we can get D back. But yeah, hopefully everybody understands that. Should have made that more More clear.
Ran. Hey, while we're waiting for Daniel, don't forget to pick up this month's issue of the Daily Doobie, which is being delivered this week. So, hey
Daniel, how's it going?
Daniel, we're back. Sorry we lost you.
Okay, we're
Doobie.
back.
Yeah. Where were we?
We were talking. I guess we had some viewers that were they were a little confused. So BHO is the kind of the overall term for butane hash oil, and then all of the consistencies it's just butane hash oil, right? The wax, butter, shatter. It's all
exactly sugar, sap, whatever you want to call it.
What about someone asked specifically about the THC content in these substances. Does it vary between the different forms of BHO?
It's not going to vary between the different forms, but depending on if you take a couple extra steps with it, it might be more potent. Like it's possible to remove a lot of the plant waxes and other stuff that's not necessarily beneficial. It comes off when you extract, so you could change something that was say like 55% THC to like 65 or 70% THC.
Right, because essentially you're just you're taking out the plant material and stacking the THC on top of it itself, essentially. Hey.
Sorry?
So I'm just trying to visualize it. So what you're basically saying is that you can take a lot of plant material and from that concentrate it down to a much higher THC content than it would normally have.
Oh, okay. Well, just to be clear, let's say you start off with 20% THC plant matter, and you run that stuff, and you yield some extract, and that extract will be about 50 to 60% THC. Now you can take that extract and further refine it by removing plant waxes and other stuff that's not beneficial, and come up with something that's even 10% higher than that. So it would now be 60 to 70% THC.
Wow.
So
fairly potent stuff.
Yeah. So there's this. Do you do what was called nug runs, where you make the BHO out of buds instead of trim?
That's the ideal way to do things, and that's definitely what the industry and what we're moving toward. But, we started out with nothing. We didn't have any backing at all. So what we did was we processed trim for other dispensaries. A lot of times I think our trim runs can come out as good as nug runs. But we only normally get nug runs when they've been heat damaged or something from a dispensary or didn't come out quite right. It's rare that they'll give us straight up top shelf nugs that could sell for a good amount in their store.
Why is it better to use buds than trim?
The plant will range in its THC from top to bottom. The top colas, what people usually test will be the highest in THC. The larvae stuff that didn't get as much sun at the bottom will be lower. Trim will be even lower. So if you get to the actual buds, you get more flavor and you get more cannabinoids and you get higher quality, and it becomes something that's gourmet. So it's always desirable to use buds if you can. A lot of people, especially out here, it's kind of cost effective for them to go to their dispensary, get an ounce of good weed on some special for $150, and then run it and get 5 or 6 grams back.
Is that how much you would get back from an ounce of bud? Is 5 or 6 grams of shatter or wax?
I'd say 18 to 22% is a pretty good average on decent buds. Yeah.
And if it was trim, it would be less percent, 10 to 15.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
I got a question for you. And somebody actually, it's so funny because I thought of this and I looked up and someone on the chat, Fu Manchu, said terpenes, right? So,
yes.
I'm being told it's 710.
Nice.
So we should take a dab for 710. Hey, thanks, Chris. So while I prepare this dab for a 710 celebration, Big D, what are terpenes and why are they so important?
Well, the terpenes determine how your body intakes THC. So let's say you had something that was absolutely pure THC, something that was 60% THC and 6% terpenes would be something that would get you more medicated. It's also the flavor.
Interesting.
So not only does it determine how your body uptakes the other cannabinoids, it affects flavor too.
Interesting. Are the terpenes what provide the flavor?
Yes.
That is an excellent explanation. Thank you.
They do all sorts of things. It's really fascinating. Like, for example, myrcene. It's what determines whether something is an indica or sativa. 0.05 milligrams, I guess would be, 0.05 milligrams of myrcene, or above that makes it an indica, below that makes it a sativa.
Interesting. So that's one of the... Is that a particular type of terpene, or is that just another kind of...
It is. And it tends to develop more the longer you leave it on the vine.
Right on. Right on. I have to admit, the science goes a little bit over my head, Big D, especially after that 710 dab I just took.
Yeah.
You know, the labs right now, it gets a little bit confusing for me, too, because it doesn't seem like there's one set standard that they're all using. I mean, they use gas chromatographs, they use HPLCs, they get different results depending on which one they use. Labs get different results in the exact same material. It's just kind of nuts right now. I think there's very few labs that have a good enough reputation for me to trust. Like, what I'll do is I'll test for residuals in my product. I won't even test for potency because I feel like it's almost irrelevant. You know, after you hit 50% anything, it's going to get you high.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned about is, like, is there butane left over in my stuff?
I guess that makes sense. I mean, even in the what's the consumer going to want to know? I mean, I guess if it's on the shelf, they might want to know, is one 85%, is one 75%, and depending on the exact price. But
well, they'd love to know that stuff, but unfortunately they can't, because I could take it to one lab in town and it would tell me it's 57%, and I'd take it to another lab in town and it would say it's 75%. You know?
Really?
That's and of course, who are they going to go with? Who are these dispensaries going to go with? They're going to go with the person who gives them the highest results.
Well, if everyone was getting the same consistent results, it would still,
But I wouldn't want to have just one lab doing all the testing. I would want to have multiple.
What you need to have is the same procedures being used by multiple labs is what you need. You need an industry standard that everybody's using, right?
There does. I mean, all the tests need to be like, you need to be able to duplicate them within a reasonable margin of error. I mean, it should be, if you test it here, you'll get like 60%. If you test it there, you'll get 60% everywhere. If you test it, you get 60%, And it's just coming down to customer service. And that's determining where you go to get your stuff figured out.
Now, on the recreational adult use side, I've been told that, like, everything is going to have to be labeled with a potency labeling.
I'm sure it is, but it's just not going to mean anything, unfortunately. I mean, you get a general range, but, like I said, within a 20% difference, I could go to, you can take the same stuff to different labs.
Now, what about testing for, like, butane in it, or testing for the cleanliness of it? Are you going to get a variety of results from different labs as far as testing for impurities?
So far the ones that are failing at, each lab fail at each different lab, but the ones in town, one place if you get over 3 ppm, that would be considered a fail, 3 parts per million. Another place on the street, if you got 750 parts per million, it would be a fail. Now, on this first person scale, I'll have below 3, and at the other one I'll have a whole lot more. It'll be like, 600 or 700. It's really strange.
All right, so we're going to break in just a second here, but I have one more question, and that is, why is there such a price difference from place to place? I mean, I went into a place recently, and I paid $50 a gram for shatter, and I've been to places where it's $25 a gram for shatter, and, I can tell a little bit of a difference, but I'm just, is there a reason why there's such a disparity in price?
The patients at that one store buy it at $50, so that's what they sell it for. I mean, ultimately the market determines the price, I think. I did my best to lower the price, but it also lowered the quality in a lot of instances for people, and encourage. If you see something for $15 a gram and it wasn't maybe the closed loop system, they're probably using questionable butane to run it. That's all I'm saying.
Right on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Right on. No, I definitely think this was informative. I've kind of had some questions, and I hope that we were, able to get to the bottom of things. Do you have is there a website for the the Secret Cup or a place where people can go get more information or buy tickets? Or
Best thing to do is look at the Secret Cup Facebook fan page.
Nice. Cool.
And if I could just answer one more question, the one just popped up. It's like a really good one. That's what I wanted to answer.
Go ahead.
What you're doing when you do a run with butane is you get more of the sativa effects of the plant. So it can make you forget you're in pain, but it's not really as much of an indica unless you get a CBD plant. If you get something run from a CBD plant, then it'll have the effects that you're looking for. So yeah, try to find something to dab with a lot of CBDs in it, and you'll definitely get good effects.
Yeah, you can look for indicas at your dispensary, and actually several dispensaries have been specifically growing CBD strains, especially after the Sanjay Gupta story came out, right?
Yeah, they need to be. They need to be. I mean, that's important stuff right there.
Yep, I agree.
And then a lot of it, I think we have a couple of our dispensaries that go straight to the lab just because smoking it, people aren't as interested in smoking it as they are in turning it into,
concentrates.
Concentrates.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, turning a lighter to it does get, you lose a little bit of CBD just from the smoking.
From firing it up.
Yeah. But anyway, awesome. Daniel, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you at the Secret Cup.
Yes, have a great night. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks, man. We'll see you soon. All right, man, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and wrap up.
Right on.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
High up in the Rockies is beautiful Frisco, Colorado. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is a medical marijuana center with compassion for Colorado's medical patients. Looking for great meds grown organically in soil? You've come to the right place. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is just off I-70 at exit 203. Check them out at the web at www.mmrockies.com. Their ever-changing strain and clone selection is updated on the website daily. When making a trip to the mountains, no matter the season, stop by Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. Make sure you say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. You can call 970-668-MEDS to get more information. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, your mountain source for meds.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our 2 locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
And we're back.
Hell yeah. This is awesome. This is going cool. Yeah, I guess I like that we're having a show about BHO because it is something, I will actually go days without smoking flower, admittedly, because I see people kind of asking, like, well, what's wrong with just smoking flower? Or just even saying dabs aren't needed, in my opinion. It's like, well, I don't know. I don't see there's anything wrong with trying to get the best potency possible.
It's not about needs. It's about, want.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, let's say you have someone that, like, on a medical level, I mean, maybe, okay, not us, obviously, but is someone that, like, we have stories of people dying from cancer in Iowa. Like, that guy could probably use a high potency without having to ingest a lot of smoke.
Well, you know what? That guy needs,
he needs a lot more
oil,
than cannabis, but
right? He needs cannabis oil. He doesn't need smoke and dabs. He needs ingesting cannabis.
So yeah, is there a need for dabs?
You know what? It's a wonderful thing. It's economical. There's a whole new culture that surrounds it, and it's delicious. I think it's great. Someone asked, or saw someone made a comment about how dirty my nail was, right? So the nice thing about these quartz nails, you guys, is that's how you clean them. You just blast them, and then you have that white ash in the bottom, and it's actually really good to dab on that.
For some reason, I find dabbing, smoking hash oil to be a cleaner process, right? Like I can sit down and have a session or two and not have to get up and change the water halfway through.
It's true. The water actually stays fresher, right? You can, I mean, God forbid you should have to, but I've been in places where the only water I had was the water in my rig, and I drank it.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Don't, Jay.
Yeah, it's true.
It does get you higher.
No.
I'm showing.
No.
Why would you?
It
Seriously?
is drinkable. That's the thing. You cannot really do that with bong water.
Were you in a desert? Were you'd already drank your own pee and that was gone too?
That was gone.
You were forced to drink bong water?
It was either that or chew my arm off. Right? It was either drink the water out of my rig or I'd have to chew my arm off.
Left arm is not all that valuable.
All I'm saying, you guys, is
why are you? No.
It's really not bad. You can actually drink the water out of your rig. It's not.
Rig water, not
bong water. No.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Rig
that's
water.
Fine. That's fine. Yeah,
I thought I was clear about that.
Still, though, the idea of that is a little.
So, a couple of things happened recently that I think we should talk about. Right, I've been dying to talk about this thing. I'm sorry, I didn't print out the story, you guys, so I'm going to kind of massacre it. Right, but there was an elderly couple somewhere east of here in another state, and they got pulled over for a minor infraction. I think they had a tail light out, or maybe they were speeding or something. And they wigged out and confessed to the police officer that pulled them over that they had a small amount of marijuana in the car. And because they live in a prohibition state, the cop took it as far as he could, and this elderly couple is going to jail for 3 years apiece. And they will probably lose their home and all of their retirement savings because the local police department will just seize all of that for their own embetterment, right? This is what people outside of Colorado have to live with. But there's a moral to this story, you guys. The moral is don't rat yourself out, right? I have another story that I like to tell. It's very similar, okay, but not quite the same ending. A friend of mine was traveling back from Amsterdam, and he had to go through Heathrow, right? They stopped him in Heathrow, and they pulled him out of line, and they put him in an interrogation room, and they grilled him for hours. He refused to admit that he had any cannabis on him. They were going to begin a strip search, right? And they started to have him remove articles of his clothing one layer at a time. He was down to his underpants, and he had a little baggie stuffed under his balls, you guys, right? He was down to his tighty whities when something in the airport happened and security was called away. He was told to get dressed and leave.
That's like straight out of a movie.
Right,
like,
right? Don't rat yourself out. There's no reason to turn yourself in. You don't rat yourself out, right? You are innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, I was in an airport coming back from Amsterdam, and this happened over a decade ago, so I feel like I'm immune. But I had one of those like shaving cream containers, and you can the bottom opens up.
Container,
yeah, and there was actually you could put a little whipped cream in or a little shaving cream in there,
right? So it worked.
So that it worked. And I would go to different dispensaries just buy a little bit. So I had a few different grams of just a bunch of different bud, and I put it all in there and just had it on my carry-on. It was like, well, looks like it was no big deal. And it was going through security, and they pulled that out, and they're looking at it. You know what I mean? Like I think she just like made sure it worked and was seriously looking at this container, called someone else over, and I'm just like sweating. I kind of like look over at the girl that was with me being like, well, this might be the last time I see you, but I'm not going to acknowledge that I know you, but later, and then they just put it back.
You were lucky, you're not allowed to carry aerosol cans.
Well, this was the late, 2003, 2004.
I went to Amsterdam once, and on the way back, I got pulled out of line for a full pat-down, open bag security search 3 separate times in the same airport, right? In the same airport.
When was this?
This was I think 2005 or 3 or 2. This was a while ago. I went to Europe one time back in their days. I don't know. It was sometime back then. In any event,
criminal or what were you?
I had nothing on me. I mean, I was clean. I went to Amsterdam for 36 hours. It was the tail end of a 3-week-long European trip that my wife and I took. And, I was tired and grumpy and I guess a little scudgy. And I had a long beard. And I guess I just looked the criminal type. And they pulled me out of line 3 times. And every time I got more angry because I was like, really? I just went, didn't you see me? Not 100 yards down there, just go through this very same thing. It's just crazy.
You do look like a criminal. I was looking at the chat. Somebody was like, right after Jay says, don't rat yourself out, I tell a story about how it was like transporting weed across. Don't rat yourself out. More of the story.
Please,
by the way.
Don't rat yourself out.
Yeah, no, that happened a while ago, and I would never, that was stupid. That was a bad idea.
Yeah,
I would never do that. But yeah, no, living,
Somebody called you Walter White.
Walter.
I get that a lot, especially when I wear the other hat. I get Walter White or Heisenberg, I think he's referred to.
Heisenberg.
The funny thing is that I've never watched a single episode of Breaking Bad.
Neither have I.
No. I'm saving it. I'm saving it for when I've watched all of the other incredible shows that I'm catching up on, right? Like right now I'm watching Dexter. All right, so something else really important before we go, something else really important that people need to pay attention that happened in Seattle. The Seattle City Council has effectively they're effectively voting to ban medical marijuana dispensaries in the city by requiring them to have a license that doesn't exist. Right? The state is going to require a special license for the recreational, and the city council is saying that the medical has to have the same license. It doesn't exist for the medical side.
It's like the marijuana tax stamp all over again.
You got to watch this stuff. I don't really understand why they're doing that. I assume it's just a glitch in the capital of Washington, right? That they would do something.
There's no way
that.
they would, even just in terms of press, that they would allow the medical dispensaries to shut down, but allow then the adult use.
Raises a question in my mind, which is this what we're going to see as a trend in the future? Are we going to see the end of medical marijuana? Because why have medical marijuana when you can just go to a recreational store and get it? There are a lot of people who think that medical marijuana is a sham. Important people that think this. Why that fat lunkhead Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, says that, right? These are people in power that say this. We have to speak truth to it, right? That medical marijuana is a real thing. It can cure cancer, right? It can at least help alleviate the symptoms. It can help, at the very least, if you're suffering from chemo, it can help you get through that. To deny it to someone going through that kind of thing is just insane. And we're finding that there are all kinds of applications for it on every medical front.
Yeah, on a variety of levels, even on a therapeutic. I mean, even in Colorado, they don't recognize depression or anxiety, PTSD.
Right.
You
Right.
can't say that you
PTSD.
have sleeping disorders. Like in Colorado, it's physical symptoms only.
Right.
But that's definitely not true. I mean, we all know that if you have anxiety, depression, if you're suffering post-traumatic stress, for some people, cannabis is a huge
can really help. And I think we will see hopefully we'll see the trend move towards showing more of that, as opposed to just sweeping it under the rug and saying, it's just recreational anyway. And if it's available for the recreational market, why do we need a separate medical market? And we do. We need a separate medical marijuana market because we need to fund studies, right? We need to help patients, right? Not people who are just looking to get high. We need people doing the plant research and the CBD research and the medicinal research. And if we sweep all that away and say it doesn't exist anymore,
yeah, no. I mean,
it's just not good.
I mean, I like the idea that someone from Texas or someone from New Jersey that's suffering can come to Colorado and legally buy their cannabis, which is before, I would literally be working in a dispensary and someone would call and say, I've got this thing, I'm suffering, and how do I get it? And I'm like, well, you're gonna have to move to Colorado. And they're like, well, I live with loved ones. Or this case in Iowa where the guy's like, he's on probation, so he like was not legally allowed to leave, and then is suffering, and then he can't get it. It's like, so that would be better than nothing. But even in Colorado, when these adult use things start opening up, you're going to see edibles that are limited to 100 milligram doses. You're going to see far less array of products, just because it's just kind of a new industry. Just the way that edibles and all these, like, you're probably not going to see Canatabs. Maybe you might see them in an adult use store, maybe not. I don't know, but I would definitely want to see both, but still having retail or adult use in other states is still better than nothing.
Well, we've got to keep the dialogue open.
The feds, it has to be the Controlled Substances Act. That has to change. We talked about it so that there can be research, so that somebody, it has to happen so that we can acknowledge that there is benefit to it, and that more research needs to be done.
Happen,
Because again, comparing to the DHO, more research needs to be done.
Yeah. It's going to happen. What do I always say? We keep the dialogue open, right? We get our community behind it.
Do you always say that?
I always say this, and that builds. What does it build? It builds momentum.
I say you always say that.
So it's a 3-tiered thing, right? The dialogue, the community, and momentum. We got to keep talking about this, right? If you have questions, ask. Right? Hit us up.
Mm-hmm. In other states, I mean, it's like we keep, we've been talking about, I guess, having a show where we want people to call in from other states and really talk about what's going on in their state. Like, I'd like to know what's going on in all these other states.
We can continue this conversation on Facebook, you guys. Please sign up, like the Reefer Madness Radio Facebook page, and we check it. So if you want to tell us what it's like where you are, right? Mm-hmm. Give us a story about what it's like living in a prohibition area or living in a legal area. But tell us what it's like, and next week, if we have some good ones, we'll read them out. Hey,
yeah, that'd be awesome to get some actually personal accounts, because we can search on the internet and find stories just like anybody else. But it'd actually be great to hear from people that have some firsthand accounts of prohibition.
Right on. It was really great actually being able to pay attention to the text this week and see the comments and questions. That makes a huge difference. And it was really great talking to Big D, who's one of the, just the biggest members of our community. He does so much, not only here, but also in California and in Washington. He spreads as much love as he can. What can I say?
He's very well respected, and he's good at what he does, both in making product and in, the community, helping the industry, helping... I don't know, because we do need things like this. I mean, it's legal here, but we still, I don't know. It's never going to stop. We always want to be moving forward on every level.
You know what? You can count on him to do that, right? You can count on Big D. You can count on us to do that too. We're going to try to take this show as far as we can and make it better, work out the bugs, get some really great guests.
Yes.
Keep them lined up, I should say. The Secret Cup is coming up next weekend here in Denver.
Yes, and we don't formally have a guest for next week, but ideally we're going to get somebody that's coming into town
to compete.
Yes,
I think
but then again, now that the phone thing worked out really well, like we can go international.
We could.
I mean, obviously it's kind of the middle of the night in Europe, but still, make it happen.
I'm sure people are up listening to us. Yeah.
Nice. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That would be great to get some international support. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with getting it here in the United States.
Want to shout out again to the Daily Doobie, you guys. I'm going to be covering the Secret Cup for the Daily Doobie, and you can read about that in the next issue.
The Secret Cup. I heard tickets were something like $25. There was a website.
That's right.
Somewhere.
There's a website. I forget the name, but if you go to their Facebook page, the Secret Cup on Facebook, you can get tickets from there, and they're $25 for general admission, and then they have a VIP package for $250.
Nice.
I'm
awesome.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see. That's cool that the writing for the Daily Doobie. I mean, it's to be honest, it's a monthly publication, but it's called the Daily Doobie.
That is because the person who owns it is named Daly. That's the guy's name, right? It's Bruce Daly.
Yeah.
So the paper is named after him. But I'll tell you what, we're getting close to a year now. The paper started in 2013. And we are growing. I'll just put it that way. I'm really proud to be a part of the beginning of this thing. Like, if you have an issue of the Daily Doobie, in 50 years, that's going to be worth something, whether the Daily Doobie is still around or not.
Yeah,
the first year, the issues from the first year, and I'll tell you something else. Every piece that I send out myself from Mountain High, I wrap in an entire issue of the Daily
Somebody
Doobie.
buys a glass from you, you like wrap it in the.
I do. I don't know if anybody has noticed that, but if you take the care to look at the newspaper that it's wrapped in, it's always wrapped in a Daily Doobie.
That's awesome. No, I mean, just again, comparing again, going back to the Prohibition, to have a paper where we're just talking about events and people in the industry, like, can you imagine, like, you're in a Prohibition state, but you're like, you know, I mean, you're helping your friends get bud, and you're making wax, and you're making hash, and you're really good at it.
But you got to fear for your life and your possessions and everything.
And the idea of someone making an article about you in the paper, and you're smiling and you're picturing it, just like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It is. It's crazy.
So
we're living the dream, buddy.
Yeah, we are living the dream.
We're living the dream. I must say, I really do like being in Colorado. I'll tell you what, my brother lives in Maryland. My understanding is his cancer has come back. Right?
What sort of cancer?
It's gallbladder cancer. He's an avid cannabis user, but he can't get Rick Simpson oil, as far as I know. He can't get Canacabs or any kind of good healing cannabis. He gets brick weed. Right? Because even though Maryland has legalized medical marijuana, they have not implemented the law. There are no dispensaries. There's no program for people to get it there yet. I don't know what the hesitation is.
Well, I mean, we kind of know what it is, but it's like, why is the hesitation able to
consider that you
go
can
on?
literally drive down the road from my brother's house and visit George Washington's hemp farm, right? Like, literally, there's a sign on the side of the road, a state historic plaque, George Washington's hemp farm, right there. It just drives me crazy. It wasn't, it was only 70 years ago that this propaganda started, right? It's only a couple generations that we've been under the spell of Anslinger and DuPont and Hearst, right?
And in 70 years, we'll be smoking weed on federal property.
Everything will be written on hemp paper again. You know what's so funny? In my industry, in the historic preservation industry, we are required to print things like photographs and reports on archival quality paper made from wood. In order to make it archival quality, they have to pump it with all kinds of other chemicals. All they have to do is make paper from hemp. That's all they have to do. The Constitution is in fine shape, right? Written on hemp. We find ancient papers.
Well, they can write it on hemp, right? I bought some hemp off on the internet, and it came to me. I got some hemp paper.
We had our very first hemp harvest in Colorado.
Yes, I heard that was a big deal. Like CNN, AP, like it was a big deal to have the first legal hemp harvest.
Yeah.
How big was it? I mean, we're talking like acres or whatever.
I think, you know what? I have to go like right off my kneecap memory here, and I think it was something like 56 acres is the number that's sticking in my craw.
That's not huge.
It wasn't a huge crop. Or maybe it was the first crop in 56 years.
There was 3 different strains.
3 different strains, Chris says.
One didn't grow that great because of the already vegetation. One grew really well, tall, and the other one was really seedy.
Do you know how many acres they planted?
No, they didn't say.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know like what they're able to turn it into. They use it for fuel. They use it for clothing. They
they could make anything out of it.
Everything. I mean, yeah. There's an infinite. What are they going to do with it?
I say we pave our roads with it. Let's pave our roads with hemp.
Hemp roads.
Yeah. The streets of Denver are paved with hemp.
Build our houses.
We could, right? Hempcrete.
Yes.
We could make our cars. All of our plastics.
Yes.
Oh my God! Every petroleum man, woman, company in the Denver metro area just had their sphincter tightened when they heard me say, when they heard me say we could replace every petroleum product there is with hemp.
No, I'm going to be driving a hemp car made out of hemp filling it with hemp.
That's right.
Parking it in my
fueling
hemp
with
garage.
Right. I think it's time for us to sign out.
Bro, it's just an awesome show.
It is. It's so
Let's
much
keep
fun to
going.
do. Right? It's awesome.
No, this is great. This is great. Like I said, we'll work out a little bit of.
Want to thank
kinks and
everybody
buzz.
for chiming in with the chat, man.
Yeah,
and
that's been great. That's
being
been
able
cool.
to actually look at it, see it, and stuff. It's great interacting with you guys. So thanks for tuning in to Reefer Madness Radio.
Right on, man. See you guys next week.